A massive but peaceful middle finger to Donald Trump is planned for Saturday, and in a move that feels ripped straight from the I Support My Dictator handbook, Texas Governor Greg Abbott just took a stunning step against it, and get this, his plan involves military force. I have all the outrageous details for you coming up next. The protest is named No King's Day. It's a national movement of peaceful demonstrations, which in part is counter-programming against Trump's $30 million military parade, which is basically a North Korean-style birthday party to himself. I'll explain exactly how Abbott is militarizing the Texas response in just a minute, but first, let's take a look at the surge of momentum that is mounting right now behind No King's Day.
We have some news right now. Massive anti-Trump protests are scheduled for Donald Trump's birthday, also known as No King's Day, per the protesters. They're calling it No King's Day because of Donald Trump's proclamation that he is a king.
I am the chosen one.
President Trump posted, "Long live the king."
We don't take an oath to a king. We take an oath to the Constitution.
A number of groups are protesting across the country. Protests are now scheduled in, I believe, all 50 states around the world. It comes on the same day that is not only Donald Trump's birthday, but it's also going to be a massive military parade here in Washington, D.C., one that's going to cost taxpayers anywhere from $30 to $40 million. The military parade will include tanks, will include flyovers, will include thousands of military personnel.
Well, we're planning on something much bigger. Call to Activism is joining Indivisible on that same day in cities across the country so that thousands of us will rise up to say what this country was founded on: no kings. Trump wants to rule by fear, and we're going to respond with people power. So RSVP now to join the No King's Day mobilization in your city, and let's show the world that democracy doesn't march behind a wannabe dictator. It rises together.
There ain't no kings in the USA. You're not God, no matter what you say. You break your word, you steal and lie, but you can't break us, no matter how you try.
Let's be clear, you're not doing it to celebrate the Army's birthday. You're doing it to stroke Donald Trump's ego. If you want to celebrate the Army's birthday by spending $30 million, I would recommend you think about something along the lines of maybe spending that money on childcare for military families, perhaps tuition reimbursement for military families. There are lots of ways to celebrate the Army's birthday without blowing it all on a parade.
Hours.
With context established, let's jump into Governor Abbott's military maneuver with this video from the Hill. I chose it because it asks the fair question: is this a reaction to something that needs to be put down in advance, or an overreaction that is igniting and fanning flames that just aren't there?
Texas Governor Greg Abbott will deploy National Guard troops to protests against the Trump administration's crackdown on immigration. Abbott says the troops are being deployed to help law enforcement maintain order. It comes as the Trump administration's aggressive immigration enforcement raids across the country have led to intense pushback from activists and Democratic politicians. Joining us to discuss, Jesse Burns, senior editor here at The Hill. So Jesse, it strikes me that there are two stories being told here. One is that these protests have a violent element and National Guard troops are needed to prevent them from getting out of control. The other is that the violence was relatively isolated and Republican politicians like President Trump and Governor Abbott are purposely inflaming tensions because they think it benefits them politically. What's your take?
Well, Joe, you've outlined essentially some of the arguments at play here, and we've seen this kind of back and forth between the Trump administration and California officials for days now over the deployment of National Guard as well as hundreds of Marines to California. Now, they are not on the front lines dealing with these protesters and these demonstrators who a number of them have, of course, become violent, and the police in LA have largely been the ones taking the lead on these arrests.
They were watching these images on the screen of chaos in Los Angeles. California is where this all started. Trump federalized National Guard troops there against the wishes of Governor Gavin Newsom. Governor Abbott, though, is a Republican. He's an ally of President Trump. I know that there were some arrests at the state capitol in Austin on Monday, but is there any indication that things were getting out of control in Texas and that we were expecting to see scenes like we did in California?
There weren't, at least publicly. Now, there are some demonstrations planned for today as well as this weekend in different parts of Texas, and we've seen reportedly the National Guard be deployed to Austin, San Antonio, the governor confirming that he has deployed them to other parts of Texas as well. And his pushback is, don't mess with Texas law enforcement. They're very much taking a kind of an offensive posture on this, hoping that anyone who might try to be disruptive or violent would stay home.
The answer to the question I asked before the video is no. This is not a rational reaction. Recent history shows thousands of anti-Trump protests that have taken place without incident, and the violent and unacceptable element we're seeing in Los Angeles is rare. And we know that Trump has been pouring kerosene on it because it makes him look strong, and action against immigrants will always appeal to the white nationalism movement inside of the MAGA movement. And Abbott clearly wants to appeal to that same kind of mindset and voter with his actions. And here's the real danger with Abbott's decision. When you send in the military ahead of peaceful protests, you're not preserving peace, you're provoking tension. History shows us that when authorities show up in riot gear to maintain order, that very show of force shifts the mood on the ground. Then if one scuffle breaks out and it escalates, they can turn around and say, see, we told you they had bad intentions. It becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. This is how democracies slip and slide into something unrecognizable. Peaceful protests get rebranded as civil unrest and the crackdowns get normalized. It's not about preventing violence, it's about justifying authoritarian control. And when those in power write the narrative and cast themselves as the heroes, the truth gets bulldozed right along with your rights. So please take part in No King's Day peacefully while that draft dodger in chief watches the tanks roll by.